Did you know that your body is electric? And when electricity isn't flowing, that can lead to inflammation, pain, and all kinds of chronic conditions. Well, that's what we're talking about today on Wellness by Design. I'm your host, Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer, and my guest today is Dr. Rob Vanbergen from Pain Free for Life. And we talk about how to get electricity flowing the way it should be in your body with microcurrent that matches the way that our vagus nerve should be operating. Now, you've probably heard about the vagus nerve and that it can not work properly, and that leads to chronic conditions going on in our body. And when we can get that vagus nerve working again and we can stimulate it with microcurrent, then the body can begin to heal. We teach it how to heal. All right, I'm really excited about this, and make sure you stay tuned till the end because we're going to talk about how you can learn more about this. And I shall see you inside the episode. I'm so delighted to have you here, Dr. Rob, on Wellness by Design today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jane. It's always a pleasure.
Well, I love the work that you do, and I've known you for a couple of years now. I'm really inspired by you and Pain Free for Life and just that whole concept. It's a whole new concept for some people that we've got a whole lot more going on in this body. So, Rob, what brought you to this line of work? What made you interested in this? Because it's away from the norm, right? What took you there?
Yeah, it's definitely away from the norm. And I like to use the whole like adage of like patient before practitioner when talking about this. But it kind of goes back into like family roots. Like my parents brought this microcurrent technology to North America. And for my mom, they're both doctors of natural medicine, and for her, discovering the devices was really something she was trying to do for me and not for patients. I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was really young, and I dealt with quite a lot of pain, though I must say I was like 9, so remembering it is a bit of a challenge. But the pain and the anxiety associated with the pain kind of like led my life, right? It was what it was. It caused me to miss a lot of school, didn't want to do certain activities with my friends. And my mom would take me to all of these holistic things to try and treat this, right? We went to osteopaths, chiropractors. We tried reflexology extensively. She did what she knew, homeopathy, natural medicine, and we even tried conventional medicine as well, like medications. The one thing we didn't try, thank goodness, was surgery. And so for my mom, we were living in England at the time in the UK, and she was given this opportunity to fly out and see this technology. They were looking for people that spoke English to teach it because it was originally a Russian technology. Now we're fully US based. And so she flew off, and this training course, the way she tells it, taught by Russians with a translator. And it wasn't even really a training course. It was like a cycle of bringing people in and healing them. And she tells the story like people were literally being wheeled up onto the stage in wheelchairs and being treated and standing up and walking off. And at the time, the technology was like $4,000. And she kind of dove in right away. She was like, I need one of these. I'm going to bring it home and I'm hoping it's going to help Rob. Well, she brought it home, and what I do remember about this is this treatment feeling like a little tingle on your skin and just being kind of weird. And also, after so long of trying things and getting nothing beyond temporary relief, I just kind of expected it to be another one of these. But, at least it was in my home, so I didn't have to travel to go get the treatment. And I ended up waking up the next day and not really feeling that pain. And I just got on with my life. I even think about the fact that it wasn't hurting anymore. And it actually corrected the curve of the spine too. And
Wow.
so, and it's never kind of, well, it comes back occasionally, like very slightly, and it just takes one treatment to correct it. Usually, if I'm doing something silly like sitting badly or something like that, where I put my posture out. But this was kind of the moment for my parents where microcurrent took over everything. And
Mm.
she actually, my mom and my dad then decided we were going to move to the States. They got offered to set up a clinic in Florida. And we packed up, sold the house, and moved. And it was the beginning of this massively grand, exciting adventure of traveling North America for me as a kid. But also, what I did not realize was that it was also sort of laying the groundwork for what I do now today. And I would love to say that at that moment I knew this is what I was going to do. But no, I was 9, and as I continued through my childhood, I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. I went to college when I graduated high school for an English degree, did a bachelor's in English. Then I was like, oh, that's not going to do it for me. I don't want to become just an English teacher. So I did anthropology. Then I did business, and I ended up kind of full circle back in my parents' office. I was like, let's, maybe I can help you do the accounting or whatever with my business degree. And it seems silly. It kind of came back though, because then my dad brought a patient in, and this is the most iconic piece to me. He brought her down the stairs, and she was limping really badly. For some reason, for a pain clinic, our office was in a basement. It seems really bad now when I think about those stairs for those poor people. But she was limping down the stairs, and she hopped up on the table, and he treated. And I was kind of watching out the corner of my eye, typing away, and I'm thinking, you know, this is what I remember it being as a shock to someone that's like, whoa, this is different. What is going on here? And how is this going to help? And she got up off the table and she was dancing around. She was like, oh my God, I'm going to be able to dance again. And she gave him a big hug and she actually bought a device and she left. And I said to him, I'm like, can I treat someone? Like, that seemed like life-changing to be a part of something like that.
Right.
And he
Yep.
told me no.
He
He
told
was
you
very,
no.
he told me no. It was very disappointing. He said, no, Rob, you got to go back to school if you want to do that. And I mean, I felt like a lifelong student at this point, right? I just finished business school after doing 2 other degrees. And now I'm being told I have to go for another degree so that I can actually get a license to put my hands on someone and treat them. But that was the moment I think where I was like, well, this is something I could do. I could continue this legacy. I could keep working on this. And so I did. I went back to school, and I focused every bit of my studies in my doctorate degree program that I could on microcurrent, on body electric. And I swung it back around, much to the irritation of my professors, I'm sure. It was definitely, for me, my key focus. I see everything now through this idea of cells, of electricity, through a body that should be able to heal, but isn't. And so this has kind of become my life's work, being more that I'm a little bit more technologically inclined than my parents were, and go and do these sort of interviews, do presentations online, and kind of teach people, reach more people than I could when they were just traveling around, meeting groups of 10 people in a doctor's office and then moving to the next state, right? So that's kind of the long story of the journey. But started when I was young and has evolved to sort of a passion for helping others. And I'm glad to say I was finally able to actually graduate and put my hands on patients and actually begin to be a part of that process as well, which was just exciting.
Mm. I mean, when you see someone's life changing like that, what better reward could there be? And now, I mean, we're so blessed actually to have the technology to be able to reach so many people all across the globe instead of having to be, right there with them. Okay, let's pop out to the idea, or not the idea, but the concept that might be new to some people to think of themselves as electric, because most people think of themselves as physical or even like, biology and chemistry. And even though we know there's some electric in there, I mean, defibrillators, where there's different medical devices that are used in conventional medicine that are based on the electricity of the body. But for the people that a lot of people that are watching and listening have chronic pain or another chronic condition, and what has that got to do with them being electric? I know it's a
You know,
big concept.
it is. It's a big concept, and the instant answer would be to say mysteriously everything and move on from there. But I think that there's a lot more to it than that. And to your point, like electricity being in the body is a biological thing. We do learn it, at least in Canada, grade 12 biology. We talk about action potential in the cells, and it's like a 5 minutes piece of work, and then they move on to something else. They get back to the blood and the guts, which is what people truly believe we are. But it's a tiny concept that is just absolutely critical because it is a system. When you're talking about microcurrent, you're talking really about a system already present in your bodies. This is the body electric. Whether you have ever had a treatment with microcurrent before or not, if you are a living, breathing human being, you have an electrical body and it is functioning on electricity. In fact, it's every one of the trillions of cells within our body that functions on electrical energy. They act like little batteries and they hold this little charge and have a measurable voltage. All of these things are critical. Signals from our microcurrent system in our bodies are sent through the body and they aim to trigger the pain response. So they might make you feel pain. They can also get rid of that. They can initiate healing and contraction, and it's lightning fast. We know that if you take a medication, it has to be digested, absorbed into your body, travel through your bloodstream. This takes time. Microcurrent uses your nervous system. This is what it is. So when you're about to step out in front of a car and out of the corner of your eye, you see it coming and you lurch back, a signal has just been sent that has caused your body to react and to recognize that almost it with lightning speed. And I kind of hinted at this earlier, but our human bodies were designed to heal. We are not necessarily intended, right, to just crumble and break apart.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the things that we kind of lose track of as we suffer from a disease, from chronic pain, as we go through the medical system. We think, well, this is just fate. We're designed to do this. But that is just not the case, right? Our body has healed throughout our lives whenever something has happened. And when we suffer from persistent inflammation or we have a lot of scar tissue, or when the tissue of the body becomes compromised by something, whether that be infection or toxins or even medications that we are taking, we're creating an environment in which these little electrical signals can't really pass through. And it's kind of like a cell phone with bad reception, like losing the calls all the time. Your body's just not getting those healing messages it needs. So when we talk about microcurrent therapy, we're talking about something that takes control of that innate electrical system and enables you to have some control over this comprehensive healing system that is and always has been within you and that just might not be functioning correctly at the moment.
Hmm. Yeah, and I like that. I think that's a concept people can understand, that it's not anything inherently wrong with you. It's just not functioning. And so we want to get it functioning well. And you mentioned the nervous system there, Dr. Rob. And I know from what I do, the nervous system is kind of the main thing, right? That's controlling everything that's happening in our body. But a lot of people, many people, I see this over and over again with people with chronic pain, their nervous system could be stuck in a dysregulated state. It could be something physical, like you said, it could be scar tissue or it could be toxins, but most of the time there's emotional stuff going on. So what's the connection between stress and how and our nervous system, and then how microcurrent can deal with that?
Yeah, so that connection is just inherently there. Stress fuels inflammation, it fuels disease, it makes us in this state where we simply can't heal. It puts us into this with a sympathetic state of fight or flight, and we just are not designed to heal. That is kind of our survival mechanism. And so the things in the body, the nervous system in general, whether it's the autonomic or not, it is functioning to keep you moving, to keep you alive, and it is all electrical, right? There's no denying that our nerves send these signals, and when they don't, the body begins to shut down. Now, part of this comes down to the vagus nerve, and there are a lot of other nerves beyond this, But we know that the vagus nerve is known as the wandering nerve because it kind of touches everything in our bodies. And I think this boils down to gut inflammation that spreads and causes all of these other issues. And it is exacerbated or even created by stress from the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is known to regulate digestion. It can regulate heart rate. It can do so many things. It does all these things passively, but it also can help us to actually create, it will create by itself inflammation or it will block inflammation. And this comes down to that fight or flight response. I'm assuming most people know what that is, but just to digress a little bit, this is the autonomic, so it just happens. You don't necessarily have control. It's a physiological reaction to some sort of event that's perceived as stressful or frightening. Now, this may be an animal or a person that scares you, but it can also be a disease, right? It can be something that may not seem like it should trigger that response. And the stress and the anxiety associated with dealing with the health issues that we're suffering from, this often is worse than the symptoms of that health issue.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
This is the killer for people. And you'll see people as we work with different clients where 9 times out of 10, we can isolate a lot of this to a nervous system that is out of whack. And it's all due to that stress. And it's a cycle, right? You feel uncomfortable, stresses you out. The stress makes you more uncomfortable, and it just keeps going and going and going. And eventually the nervous system almost completely collapses and it just stays in this fight or flight mode. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to go anywhere. And this is actually one of the most challenging things for me about healing and helping people heal, because even when people start to feel good, then their brain doesn't just necessarily accept that. It's kind of like that problem. If you wake up and you think, wow, I'm fine, you're not thinking, wow, I'm fine, I'm just going to get on with my life now. You're thinking, when's the other shoe going to drop, right? When am I going to start feeling crummy again? It's not because it's such a chronic issue. It's not kind of like when you go to bed with a cold and you wake up feeling fine and it takes you a day to realize you're no longer feeling sick. It's something that is ruling, controlling your life. You're sitting there worrying it's going to come back. And the problem with that is that worry increases your stress, which increases your inflammation. And it's kind of you create these self-fulfilling prophecies, right? Where you're just designing your own disease. And I think it's something that is not conducive to survival, yet we continue to do it. It's like a disconnect and a dysfunction. We need to learn to become less stressed if we want to be able to heal what it is that's causing us these issues. Because stress even by itself will create inflammation. And
Yeah.
that inflammation will make you have more pain. And you can't escape that if you don't analyze stress as being a part of the problem and look to resolve it however you can. And there's multiple different ways to approaches to kind of address this as well.
Hmm. So true. I see it over and over again. And a lot of people with chronic pain, as well as you know this, there's a lot of fear then when people have pain and they lose mobility, then they start having fear about the future, which creates more stress, which then creates more pain. Like it just keeps them in that cycle. And so, like, critical to that is breaking that cycle. And I find a lot of people don't really understand that. They think what they got to do is stop the pain. And well, that's true. We want the pain to stop, but it there's this other underlying mechanism. And also I know from reading some of the science and studies that people with chronic pain have a have lost vagal tone. So their vagus nerve loses tone because it's not getting activated, right? That parasympathetic branch, that rest, digest, repair state of the nervous system isn't getting activated. So with microcurrent, so we're talking about this microcurrent, and we've sort of mentioned device a few times. So there's a way we can induce current that's going to help the nervous system regulate. So you talk a little bit about that, just like I like
Yeah, vagus nerve stimulation, I gotta say, is one of it is my favorite topic. I did my dissertation on it, so I spent so much time researching it, and there's so much out there now. At the time, it was like, people talked about like, humming and tapping and gargling, but that was all. And also before that, people didn't even really know that the vagus nerve had this role of creating inflammation and causing this nervous system dysfunction. We just knew that again, it helped us breathe. It helped us vomit if we needed to vomit. That was kind of the crux of that. But an accidental medical experiment on mice ended up triggering this like deep dive from conventional medical science into the vagus nerve. And what they realized in this is that by simply stimulating the vagus nerve, you can actually block the production of what we call tumor necrosing factors, and these will create inflammation. So this led to this kind of big deep dive into, well, what does that mean? If we do this, does it mean we can resolve pain? Now, we started doing vagus nerve stimulation only after seeing the front cover of Scientific American in a grocery store. And the title was Electric Cures. Bioelectronic medicine could create an off switch for arthritis, diabetes, and even cancer. And if there is a more provocative title out there, I don't know what it is. But that was like,
that's
what's this? We do electric medicine, right? And opening this up and reading this study, it led us to realize that we had in the power of our hands right now the ability to work on the vagus nerve. And in this study, they had taken this little probe and they were kind of tapping the nerves of these mice. And they ended up doing this on people as well. And they were like, hey, look, this blocks this inflammation. But in typical conventional medical standpoints, they thought, how can we make money on this? And they made a surgical version. They implant a stimulator on your vagus nerve and it stimulates your nerve all the time. Now, this works, but it also costs a lot of money, has to be replaced every 5 years, creates scar tissue, and it causes this, what I would call even further atrophy of the vagus nerve. Because you stimulate that nerve with these surgical implants 24/7. And how does a part of your body know how to function when it no longer has to do it itself?
right.
So with microcurrent, we do these really gentle external stimulations for like 3 minutes. And we hit this right on the neck where the vagus nerve passes behind the carotid artery. And you feel this tingle, you can feel it, the current moving through and hitting your guts. It relaxes you. You can see it in a patient's eyes when they kind of exhale and you're like, there, that's what I was looking for. That shift, that reactivation of the nerve. But it's not just a super quick fix like that. That can help a lot. But what you want to do is you want to train that vagal tone back. And I don't like using the word force here, but with a lot of these other methods like meditation and calming, it can be very, very challenging for a person who is in pain to achieve that. And
Hmm.
with this, it doesn't matter what your skill level is. If you can take the device and you can place it in the right place, which we show you where that is, you can stimulate your nerve. And 3 times a day can be enough over a few weeks, a time period, to actually retrain that nerve. And our goal is not to take over the process of that nerve function. It's to get the nerve to function on its own. Sort of like, if you've ever trained a dog, anyone in the audience, when you get a puppy and it pees in your house all the time. Eventually, if you keep training it, it will learn not to do that. If you don't train it, it's going to keep peeing in your house. And this is what we need the vagus nerve to do. Stop peeing in our house and start doing what we want it to do. So we can do that. We can train that. And that is the goal, the end goal of microcurrent, because then we control inflammation across the body. It doesn't matter if you have full body pain, localized pain, gut issues like diarrhea all the time, IBS. If you can get rid of that inflammation, you can essentially, according to that article, cure disease. And inflammation, it runs every single disease that there is on this planet that we suffer from as human beings. So
Hmm.
this to me is the fundamental key. And it all comes down to what we've been talking about, rewiring that nervous system, reducing that stress, turning off that inflammation. So it kind of becomes this kind of catch-all treatment that people want. And I see it more than ever when people contact us now. It's, how do I stimulate my vagus nerve? Please tell me.
Yeah. You know, I know from everything that I've studied, it comes down to the nervous system being sort of the true root cause of all of these other symptoms that happen, whether it's chronic pain, whether it's IBS, as you said, whether it's like psoriasis and skin issues or brain fog. So much of it comes down back down to the nervous system. And so we can teach our nervous system, we can, there, as you said, there's a lot of ways to do it. But if we can really teach it by showing them, it's kind of like learning anything. If you can learn something by seeing it, happening, it's much easier for you to learn it than just say read about it, or try to do it without anyone teaching you. So it's like with microcurrent, you're giving the vagus nerve the opportunity to go like, oh, this is what it feels like
Yes.
to be in that healing state, because most of us, most people, have probably been in that chronic state of nervous system dysregulation most of their lives, really, on some level, right? And so it just kind of has forgotten how to be calm and how to operate as normal. So you're giving it the opportunity to show it how to operate as normal, and then say, okay, now you go. You
Yes.
try it. And then you keep coming back. And it's like, is it like a muscle memory, Dr. Rob? Is it like that? Is it kind of a muscle memory thing?
So it becomes similar to that, yes, because as you're stimulating the body, you're putting these currents into the nervous system. And these currents are specific frequencies, combinations of specific frequencies with the same waveform as your body's own electrical system. So you're having a conversation with the body and typically with the brain, and you're really asking the brain to make these changes. And I think that the brain is just such a wonderful organ, but it's also so busy. It has to account for everything we're doing, and it's easy to forget. You got to forgive it some forgiveness here. It can forget to turn off these inflammatory states. It can forget to make us leave these nervous system dysfunctional states. And this is just really sending the signals in and asking it to correct it. And it is about retraining the body. It really and truly is. And if we think about this, we don't want to be replacing someone's pain routine with an equally time consuming or much more time consuming alternative routine, because then I kind of feel like we're saying we can give you your life back, but now it's ours. You have to now spend all your time stimulating your body with microcurrent. That's not true. We're looking at 10 to 15 minutes a day to build up a foundation where you can then take your microcurrent equipment, put it aside, and live your life. And you know what? It's there for the next time something comes back up, right? And it is about, it's why when we talk about pain, we don't talk about pain management. We use the word resolution. We're looking at pain resolution. That's the
I
dream.
love that. Pain management, kind of that terminology drives me crazy. Who wants to manage it? Like, let's just deal with the root cause and get rid of it.
Exactly.
I love that. And there's so much more we want to dive into on this topic and actually look at some actual situations, because people are probably in the audience are probably going, well, does this work for this? Does this work for that? Does this, what about arthritis? What about, I always hear this, what about tinnitus? What about, like, so many different things. So I know we're going to talk about that more on January 9th. So everyone watching, listening, if you want to join in, we'll have a link that I'm sharing with you where you can register for the Zoom session where Dr. Rob and I are going to have more of a conversation, deep dive, like really show you the how that, and also you're going to go over some of these different situations, right? People who have used this to help create healing state in their body. So
Absolutely.
January 9th, noon Eastern time is when it's happening. So make sure you check out the link. You can register, and then you'll get reminders for when it's happening, and be able to go right into the Zoom link at the time. And we'll have a little Q&A time or opportunity for people to put questions in, and we can answer those questions as well. So I'm excited about that. So looking forward to that. And what I always love to ask this question, and that is a baby step, because I love to give people something tangible that they can do. As you know, this is wellness by design. It's all about living by design, right? So, what would be a baby step that you would suggest someone could do today that's going to begin to initiate that healing in their body?
Yeah, okay. And I'm going to give two because I think they're both equally important. One is more, it's going to seem more duh, and the other is going to be more actionable for people, and it may not be something they do.
Okay.
So the first one is seems simple, but it's hydration. And this speaks more to body electric than you would believe. But remember that water is conductive, right? We put
Mm.
electricity into water and it goes across it. All of the tissue in our body is water-bound collagen. That's what's conductive tissue. And so if we want to be able to benefit the most from our own innate body electric, hydrate. And this will also happen to enhance any microcurrent treatment you do. And we'll see sometimes when doing these treatments how dehydrated someone is simply by the fact that the treatment won't necessarily connect with the brain. The devices can have these conversations and say, "Hey, the brain just sent me a signal back." If that's not happening, drink a glass of water and it will start to. So begin to hydrate. Think about that. The next thing is, well, what can you do if you don't have access to microcurrent equipment to improve your body electric? You've already got these electric cells, and that's going to be grounding. Getting outside, taking off your socks, stepping on the dirt. A bit hot in the snow, but try and find a place where you can clear it and go there because your body is absorbing these electrical signals from somewhere. It's getting all of these signals from the area. And the ground outside is where we want it to. We want to be getting it from. This is our low 783 hertz, like Schumann resonance. This frequency resonates with the body and it helps us to heal and calm ourselves and relax ourselves and discharge the negative energy from all the Wi-Fi, the TVs, everything around us, which our little cells are absorbing these little signals and changing the way they function. So just spending 5 to 10 minutes every week will make a difference in your body electric, if not doing it more often. Getting your feet on the ground, absorbing those frequencies is a great way to get started.
I love that. And I know it's true. You know, people go on vacation, say they go to the beach and they're walking the beach and they feel so good after their vacation, probably around water too, which,
Yep.
might help. But yeah, that's great advice. Now, Rob, I know you said, like, what can we do in the wintertime? I live in Newfoundland. There's snow on the ground right now. Like, what would you suggest for people that are in a cold climate in the winter?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. This is one thing we try to address with microcurrent. You can, whether you're in a 50-story apartment building made of concrete, you can use microcurrent technology to subtly add the grounding frequencies into your body. But I think one of the main things is going to be if you're in a cold climate and you can't get in there, you're not going to be able to access that grounding to the same degree without something like a grounding sheet or something. There are things out there that are fairly affordable that can help.
Mhm.
But one thing you can do to amp up the hydration piece is to put electrolytes into your water as well. Think electro, think about what this is doing for your body. It is going to enhance that process too. But where you can, try and get outside. I know we're on Vancouver Island here. We do sometimes get snow, but most of the time it's just rain. So you'll catch me late in the evening standing out there in the pouring rain with no shoes on. It seems a little bit weird to my neighbors, I'm sure, but it gets me grounding done. So yeah, think about the different things you can do and know that there are alternatives. That a lot of these grounding things that are out there can be very beneficial to give you that during the winter time.
I love that. It's so simple. And when you think about it, our ancestors were outdoors. We were outdoors. We were walking around barefoot before plastic and stuff came along and went on the soles of our shoes. So, um, yeah, I think about sometimes like there were native people that lived here, indigenous people in Newfoundland that put up with our winters, but they were wearing things like, animal skins probably on their feet, right? So they
Yep.
were still getting that conduction happening. So
Yeah.
other things to think about. So I know a lot of people might think this is like kind of wild and out there, but we are electrical beings. We do have an electric body, and we are being bombarded with a lot of interference kind of stuff with all of our electrical devices. So anything we can do to help mitigate that is going to be helpful. So thank you, Rob. And I'm really looking forward to your body electric presentation, the webinar that we're doing on January 9th, noon Eastern time. So make sure that you sign up, everyone, and save your seat there, because it's going to be really informative, enlightening, and actually could change your life. So I hope that we see you there. So Rob, thank you so much for being on Wellness by Design today, and just for the great work that you're doing. I'm sorry that you had scoliosis, but it led to the work that you're doing, the work that your parents are doing, and really kind of changing people's lives in a big
Yeah,
way, right? So,
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
yep. Thank you, Rob. And we'll see everyone again soon. Hopefully, see you on January 9th as well. All right. Take care. Have a great day.